Okay, so the way basically this shir came about was that I gave a 4-week series at Shomrei Shabbos on the role of communication technology in halacha, in different areas of halacha. I think I called it like the small connected world or something like that. I don't know. You have to give fancy titles. So the last shir that I gave there was on the 9/11 Aguna Shailas. And specifically, to give you the background, right, this is not that, but to understand where this issue comes from, because it appears in 2 very different areas of halacha. I did one there, I'm doing one here. So there's, in the area of agunot, classic, what's in a classic aguna, right? Not a modern aguna. What's a classic aguna? Right, I mean, any case that a woman's husband might be dead and we don't know. Right, and therefore she can't remarry because she doesn't know if her husband's alive. So one of the paradigmatic cases, one is war, you're right. One of them is what the Gemara calls nafal amayim she'ein la himself. If someone falls into the ocean, right? So now, right, if he falls into a pond or a lake, so we assume that if he doesn't come up after a few days, you would have seen him if he did come out, because it's a circumscribed area of water. But mayim she'ein la himself, right? Like, theoretically, he could show up on any side of the ocean. It's not likely, admittedly, and as most of the Rishonim note, D'Oraisa, probably she could remarry based on Rov, but Mid'Rabbanan, because of the severity of Eish, we don't allow a woman to get married if her husband fell into Mayim Shein himself, because we don't know if he's dead. Now, in the Gemara, so
the sea's big enough that you may never actually fit.
Correct. It's any Mayim Shein. The Gemara gets into how big is Mayim Shein himself.
Like grab onto like a log and float somewhere.
Correct, and that's exactly the problem, right? So the Gemara then raises a position, Ravashi, if I remember correctly, that this is only true of non-Talmidei Chachamim, but Talmidei Chachamim, who are well known, if they were to show up, so then people would find out, right? You know, if Moshe Feinstein had fallen off the end of the earth, right, and then shown up in Australia, right, he was well known enough that people would have found a way of letting you know that Moshe had showed up somewhere.
Does that apply to any other statue?
Presumably, but the Gemara rejects it. The Gemara's point is really a famous person. The Gemara rejects it. The Gemara rejects this assumption. Now, if you read the simple pshat in the Gemara, so the Gemara is assuming that there was a hava amina, that lack of communication for people of stature is enough to create a presumption of death, and the Gemara rejects it. If you just ended there, you would assume, okay, so anytime, right, so that's it, that's the end of the story. However, despite that, you find this progression in poskim, starting with the Trumas Hadesh and getting to modern poskim, who say, well, maybe that was only true in the time of the Gemara because there wasn't as good communication. But then, once there starts to be boats, and then faster boats, and then there starts to be mail, and then there's supposed to be phones and emails, and each generation, every posik basically goes like this. Well, maybe in the last generation, it wasn't true that if you didn't hear from someone that you could presume he was dead. But nowadays, maybe you could, and they keep doing this, right? The Chassam Sofer brings it up by mail, and then Ramosha brings it up by phones, and Rovadia brings it up by cell phones. And this comes up every time there's a new Aguna Shaila, right? This comes to the fore. So in 9/11, the poskim brought it up again. There, poskim like Nathan Greenblatt went farther. They said not only do we have cell phones, but in order to open a bank account, you need a social security number. So if he's anywhere in the United States, he'll show up because we have records. It's not just that we have better means of communications; we have better means of record keeping. Right, so that's one area of halacha where the question becomes, Bisman hazeh, can you lose somebody, right, for the purposes of halacha? The other area where this comes up, which is much less sort of tragic, is the Brachot of Mechayei Hametim, where this is a bracha that you never make, and the question is why, right? I mean, you make it in Shmones, right? But there's a special bracha, Baruch Mechayei Hametim, that you're supposed to make if you haven't seen your friend in 12 months. You're supposed to make a bracha when you see him. If you haven't seen him in 30 days, you say the Brachot of Shehecheyanu. If you haven't seen him in 12 months, you say Baruch Mechayei Hametim. And the question is, why don't we do this? Now, the answer might be we're wrong, and we should, because that's the answer to most brachot questions, right? Is that there's a whole bunch of brachos that we don't make that we probably should, or at least would be good. So, if you see a beautiful big tree, there's all types of brachos you can make. Shekacha lo ba'olamo. How many people ever made the bracha of Shekacha lo ba'olamo? I have, but that's not surprising, right? Because I'm crazy. But no, I went on vacation with a bunch of friends of mine a few years ago, not a few years ago anymore, after my first year in YU, so 2009. We went to LA, and then we drove up to Sequoia National Park for a day. Sequoia National Park are the oldest trees in the world, and redwoods are the tallest trees in the world. So these trees are about 2,000 years old. They're a few hundred feet tall. You know, right? Gorgeous, absolutely. Amazing, incredible. What? You guys saw the great oak. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I said, Yesh Lado and other trees, but I can't make the bracha on these trees. What can I make the bracha on? So I made the bracha b'shem u'malchus, right? And I was motzi of my friends who were uncomfortable making the bracha. I don't know what. It's Feish Gemara. It's like halacha, but fine. There are a lot of brachas we don't make. But the one I want to deal with is Brachot of Mechayei, Rabbi Chaim. So here's the Gemara. So Amar of Yeshua ben Levi, Haroes Chaver Lachar Tloshim Yom Omar Baruch Shehecheyanu v'Kiyamanu v'Giyanu Lazman Hazeh. Right? You haven't seen your friend in 30 days. You're supposed to say Shehecheyanu. But if you haven't seen him in 12 months, Omer Baruch Mechayei Hametim. You're supposed to say, blessed is he who brings the dead to life. The reason is because the dead are only forgotten after 12 months. Now what's the svara behind this? The Maharsha is a very nice argument as to why we make this bracha. It's brought in the Mishnah Berurah number 2. V'tam bracha zo. Why do we make this bracha? Because of the Chidushe Haggados. The Maharsha writes, "L'shvi shebechol shana adam nidan rashana v'yom kippurim im lamus im lamavas im lachayim." Every year we go through Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and God decides, are we going to live or are we going to die? So you haven't seen someone in 12 months. Right? You haven't seen him in a full cycle where he's gone through Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So he's gone through a sentencing. Now, the kasha obviously is, right, it could be before, the day before, the day after Rosh Hashanah. Okay, it's really some combination of whatever it is. Okay, nice understanding. The simple one is simply, you thought he might be dead. Right, and you see him, and you think, and you thought he might be dead, and turns out, oh, wow, he is not dead, right? So you make a bracha, Baruch Mechayei Hametim. Okay. What?
So just bringing up the whole, like, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, like, can't it just say, like, yeah, he might have died?
Well, that's the simple shot. But the Maharsha is this nice. Okay, whatever it is. Right. Now, what about Shehecheyanu? So let me ask you, why do you think you make Shehecheyanu if you haven't seen your friend in 30 days? Well, what is it?
You're happy to see him?
Yeah, you're glad to see him. And that's why Tosfos says in 3 that Omeri, Dafka Chaveru Achaviv Alav Avabinyan Acherlo. Right? There's only someone who you actually like. Right? Now this can get tricky, right? You see somebody who you don't really like, but he thinks you like him, so you aren't allowed to say Shehecheyanu. Okay, fine. That's a problem. Exactly. You tell them you don't say it because you're machmer and bracha, so hakel. Fine. Really, it's because you hate his guts. They're showing. There are all types of complications here, but yeah, Shehecheyanu is in general a mitzvah, a bracha on simcha. So let me throw the question out. Okay. So, Baruch Mechayei Hametim. It's brought up in conjunction with the bracha of Shehecheyanu. But what's the nature of the bracha of Mechayei Hametim? Right? There's 2 possibilities that suggest themselves. Right? One is that Baruch Mechayei Hametim is similar to the bracha of Shehecheyanu. Meaning, it's a bracha fundamentally about simcha. Namely, I haven't seen my friend in 30 days, so I say, Baruch Shehecheyanu v'Kiyamanu Lazman Hazeh. But I haven't seen him in 12 months. I haven't seen you for so long. For all I know, you might have been dead. Right? You feel even more joy. I have friends who will say Baruch Mechayei Hametim when I see them after a few years without Shem u'Malchus. Without Shem u'Malchus. And you sort of understand why, right? The way you sort of jokingly will say to someone who's been buried in work for months and you haven't seen them, right? There are idioms. You came back from the dead, right? You're back to life, right? What? You are alive, right? All those, right? So one possibility, Baruch Mechayei Hametim, is really just a more extreme version of Shehecheyanu, right? Shehecheyanu is we haven't seen someone in 30 days. Baruch Mechayei Hametim, you haven't seen him in 12 months. The other possibility is to say, no, just because Shehecheyanu and Baruch Mechayei Hametim are in the same Gemara, it's not because they're conceptually the same, it's because they're both talking about seeing friends that you haven't seen 30 days, but they have fundamentally different chiyuvim. Namely, and this is the way the Maharsha already implies, Shehecheyanu is about Simcha Shebalev, Mechayei Hametim is because there was a possibility the person was dead, and in Shevach to Hashem, that the person isn't dead. Now, if it's the second, which is a good chance that it is, right? That's the more likely approach, I think, to the Brachot of Mechayei Hametim. So the question the poskim started to deal with is, well, what happens? It used to be you haven't seen someone in 12 months, so it could have been dead, right? You wouldn't know, right? Think about mortality rates, and think, right? First of all, mortality rates, right? Just because you guys are in your young 20s doesn't mean you wouldn't have lost a friend you knew your age, between disease and between war and between travel danger and God knows what. That's point one. And two, things, right? Communication was such that you didn't necessarily know. If someone even lived in the next town over, how often did you see them? Right? For all you know, he really was dead. But nowadays, the chances that someone your age has died, it's possible, but unlikely. And B, right, you probably would have heard of it if it happened. So poskim started dealing with the question, okay, well, nowadays, right, and this is why I put it, right, long lost friends, right, can you lose somebody such that there's actually a suffix such that he's dead that you would have to break a bracha, right? It's as if you're surprised when you see him. So that's what the Makaras here really assess. So if you look at, starting with the Tshuvas HaRashba, number 4, Tshuvas HaRashba says as follows: Sha'alta, Misha L'Roz Chavero Me'olam, V'Sholchum Zela Ze Michtavim V'Achshav Ro'eu Ma Yevarech Imnena B'Riyasa. Right. So he said, okay, before we get to that question, to conceptually flesh it out, here's a good question. The bracha of Mechayei Hametim Shehecheyanu, do you say it on somebody that you've never met? Right? But someone you know, right? He said you've been in contact, right? Your pen pal from Brazil, right? You've never seen them. Right? I mean, what exactly is the nature of the bracha, right? In order to answer the question, we have to say, what's the nature of the bracha? Meaning, is it someone you've seen and now you haven't seen? Right? Or someone, right? What about someone you've never seen, right? Does that, but you know they exist, right? Through communication, but you've never seen them.
But then should you say it every time?
You don't know. Really, your pen pal in Brazil is
someone in the post office being intercepted.
The post office, Well, so that's like the not cynical approach, right? Yeah. But fine. So tshuva. Mishlo Raz Chaver Me'olam.
To be pen pals.
What?
The government pretends to be pen pals everywhere.
Oh, that's really cynical. Okay. Mishlo Raz, it's really the CIA, right? They just,
well, maybe you should say the bracha every time you get a letter from your pen pal too. It's a signal that they're
right. Similar question, right? What happens if, right, you get indication that the person's alive? So he says, okay, Mishal Roz Chaver Me'olam. If you never saw your friend, Eino Roeh Sheyeh Chayiv Levarech. Right, it doesn't seem that you should make these brachos. Shem Yevarech al Kol Mi Shenene B'Iriyasa Rabu brachos. Right, if everybody I mean, look, there are brachas you can say, right? There are brachas on beautiful people, right? There's all types of brachas. What? Ugly people. You should be careful by saying the bracha on ugly people. You really should.
They actually exist?
Yeah. Pashut. Not only do they exist.
It's a blessing, though. Isn't that?
Someone give me an art scroll. Just give me an art scroll. You'll see. It's not even like this is like theoretical halach. It's in the art scroll. Rabbeinu harav hagoyin. Yeah, there is such a bracha.
They say like Rabbi Yeshua, he was like super.
Rabbi Yochanan. No, only if they're really, really ugly. Then you say Mishana Habrios.
Really poor, has a really bad.
Look, I'm not saying you should say it to their face. B'shemu malchus. I have no suffix, right, that you fit in this bracha. It could be bad. Look, brachot like anything else in life can be used in really cruel ways.
What's the positive or what's the appropriate?
One second, let me get the list of what they include.
Like,
okay.
Why say a bracha?
You thanking God for His creation.
Yeah, or you're acknowledging it or whatever, right? So here you get, let's see what you get here. We have, look at that, Shever Brachos, Bris Milah, Dada Kriyas Hashem, Suta Sabris, oh come on. It's like these endless brachos. Okay, let's see. Okay, we know these brachos on smells, brachos on mitzvos, hafroshim or maestros. Okay, lightning, osamas brishas, thunder, shokos olam, rainbow, zochar bris, etc. Earthquake, comet, mountains, rivers, osamas brishas, ocean, or the Mediterranean, asad hayam hagadol. exceptionally beautiful people, trees, or fields. Shekacha lo ba'olamo. Right? This is like a really weird from a pickup line, right?
Never heard that bit used.
What?
I'd be really glad to hear that.
I know, but I just thought of it. No, you could use it, talk it, right? Okay. Exceptionally strange-looking people or animals. Mishana abrios. Fruit trees in bloom during the spring. Etc. An outstanding Torah scholar. That bracha I've made more than once. I've made it. I made it on Luchansin. I made it on Rosh Hashanah. I made it on Rav Yosef. I made it on Yitzchak Yosef. Shem Malchus. Why not? An outstanding secular scholar, Shenasan Mechachmasel Levasar Vadam, a Gentile king, Shenasan Michvodo Levasar Vadam, 600,000 Jews together, Chacham Harazim, upon meeting a friend. This is not with a Shem Malchus, who's recovered from a life-threatening illness, a destroyed shul that has been returned to its previous grandeur, a place where you had a miracle happen to you.
Like, all these brachas seem so, like, subjective, but are there
yes, they are
guidelines
subjective
for when you
vague guidelines, but they're supposed to express your internal
for example,
world.
The 600,000 Jews thing, like, is that 600,000 Jews
Yeah,
in a specific
right,
square kilometer area?
You just see 600,000, right?
Do you have to see all of them at the same time?
The one time in my life I had this opportunity, I didn't think about it, right? Rav Ovadiah's funeral, right? There were 800.
The only time.
Yeah, there were 850,000 people or something, whatever it was. Yeah, 600,000. That's a lot of people. There's like 800 or 900,000 people, whatever it was at Rav Ovadiah's. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Anyways, so the Rashba says, so what if you've never seen somebody at all? So he says, nah, right? This is a bracha specifically for someone who you know. If it's someone you've never met, the I'll prove it to you. The Gemara, someone you've never met before, you haven't seen in 12 months, right? And no one ever said you make Mechayei Hametim. Right? So he clarifies. This isn't just a simcha thing, right? There is a formal element to this, even to Shehecheyanu. Right, so even Shehecheyanu, which is pashtos about simcha, says it's not purely about simcha. It's the unique simcha of seeing someone who you're already friendly with and you haven't seen in a certain amount of time. And Mechayei Hametim is a bracha on not losing somebody, right, or having lost somebody and finding them again, essentially, right? She'avru alav lamed yom yivarach Shehecheyanu alav yud beis chodesh var Mechayei Hametim sherei zeh biriyaso achshav ki'ilu nela mimenu umeis v'achshav chozer v'chaya. It's as if the guy is dead. So he distinguishes, right? He said it's true that both of them are about simcha at some level, right? But specifically, it's because it's someone you knew, and then you sort of lost them, right? They possibly would have died, and now they didn't. Now, does the Rashba answer the question, what would happen if you hadn't seen someone in 12 months? Is it purely about simcha? Well, he implies it is at some level about simcha, but he says it's not just about simcha. It's the type of simcha generated by seemingly an actual concern that the guy might be dead, right? So that, he's not 100% clear, but it does sound that way. You look at Shulchan Aruch at number 5. Shulchan Aruch summarizes as follows: Haroas chaver lachar shloshim yom, Omer Shehecheyanu, v'achar beis chodesh mevarach Mechayei Hametim, v'hu shechaviv alav harbe v'sameach b'riyasa. Right? It has to be someone you really like. Sif beis mishalo roas chaver me'olam v'shalach lo ksavim av b'shanem b'riyasa oinu mevarach al riyasa. So if you never met somebody, you don't make the bracha. That's how we paskin. Okay. So that's in terms of someone you've never met and you've only communicated with via letters. So there, the Rashba and Shulchan Aruch Paskin this way says that communication technology doesn't count as having known somebody. But now what about the flip side? You actually do know somebody and you haven't seen them in 30 days or 12 months, but you have heard from them. So does that destroy Shehecheyanu or does that destroy Mechayei Hametim? So I asked you, right? Does it destroy Shehecheyanu? Yesh ladun, right? On the one hand, you might say Yes, because there's a different level of simcha if you haven't communicated with someone and then suddenly you see them. Tzad sheni, you might say, it doesn't destroy Shehecheyanu because, right, as much as you might, email someone, Snapchat, Facebook, whatever, there's still, if it's someone you actually like, right, there's something nice about seeing them in person. Well,
With the exception of significant other, it's dramatically better to physically be in the presence of somebody.
I don't know, if you have really good friends. Says, here's the machlokes, right? This is the machlokes, right? Zach thinks, no, I like seeing people, right? Josh says, I'm not sure I like seeing people, right? I don't care so much, right? But that's really that's the machlokes at some level. What about Mechayei Hametim? What about Mechayei Hametim? Mechayei Hametim, I might have, right?
If you think it's really about...
So again, if you think it's about simcha, so just like b'Shehecheyanu, there's a safek yesh ladim. But what if you think it's about a chash, the guy might be dead? That vaday should break it, right? So that's really the question, right? Shehecheyanu is you could see both ways, right? Mechayei Hametim, if it's about simcha, it's even a safek. But if it's about they're actually being concerned that person's dead, so if you've heard from him in the 12 months. So you shouldn't be able to make the bracha. So the first person to ask this question, that I know of anyways, was the halachos ktanos, Rav Yaakov Chagiz, in Morocco, 1620-1674. Sheila, Chavero shera'au v'halach mena'ir v'toch shloshim kiyom menu ksav im yomar Shehecheyanu k'sheyavo v'chein Mechayei Hametim. He asked about both of them, right? I haven't seen my friend, but I've gotten a letter from him. Do I say Shehecheyanu or do I say Mechayei Hametim? Or alternatively, if someone told me that he's alive and told me he's well, all is well. Tshuva. After the Mechayei Hametim lo yomar dein kan nishkachti kemes milev. Aval Shehecheyanu shal re'iyas hapanim yomar. So the halachos said, well, Shehecheyanu is about simcha. And most people, not everybody, but most people are happy to see their good friends in person and not just through letters, regards, right? Meaning, it's very nice, right? I send regards to the people in Gush every time someone's going, right? Every time I get I send my regards to everybody, right? It's so nice to see them once in a while, right? You can schmooze, you can catch up, whatever, you can comment, you look older, you look younger, I don't know, right?
Say the bracha.
Comment on hair loss, whatever, whatever you want to do, but there's, right, it's a different experience. Mechayei Hametim, though, even if it's about simcha, it's a specific simcha of actually being concerned that the person was dead. Therefore, the halachos ktanos, and it's quoted in the Bereheitiv as well, says that Shehecheyanu you should say, Mechayei Hametim you wouldn't say. The Aruch HaShulchan in 7 writes, Aval kishekibo menu michtav einu mevarech Mechayei Hametim. Aval in Shehecheyanu ein chiluk. And the Aruch HaShulchan follows as well. He said, Mechayei Hametim you wouldn't break. Shehecheyanu you would. Dafil kibo michtav v'doch shloshim mevarech Shehecheyanu. Why is this true? He said it's about the joy of seeing someone in person. Mechayei Hametim is, oh, you're alive. ולכן, כיוון שכבר ידע שהוא חי, על פי מכתבים, או שומע בני אדם שהוא חי, שוב לא שייך ברכת Mechayei Hametim. Since you know the guy's alive, either through second-hand sources from a letter, so that's it. You can't make Mechayei Hametim. Mr. Brura Paskins notes this as well. L'achar shloshim yom mira'iyah harishona v'imkivo menu ktavo anashim odiu mishlomo yesh deod b'achronim v'safek brachos lahakel. He said there is a machlokes achronim, but safek brachos lahakel, and therefore he suggests that you wouldn't say it. Now, if you look at the Orchos Rabbeinu, this is I think I put the Orchos Rabbeinu Chaim Kanievsky. So Lefizeh. No, it's the Chazon-Ish. Lefizeh shechavero gar b'Yushalayim v'hu kan im chas v'shamay karem mashu lechavero osa ezu simcha yamodiya lo ayidei mishu. He adds something and he says it's not just. Now he said, okay, let's take it a step farther, right? Okay, I didn't. Next step. This is if you have heard from somebody. But what's the next question you have to ask? Right? No, before we get there, right? Next question you have to ask. Okay, if you've actually heard from somebody, so fine. But what happens if you haven't heard from them? But what? you live in a world where if something would have happened, you would have heard from him.
From someone.
Right, from somebody, right? Meaning, you are on it's someone from your year in yeshiva, and you're on an alumni list. And if anything good or bad happens to anyone in your year, in yeshiva, you get a list. Baruch Dayan MS, Mazel Tov, whatever. So this is the next step, right? The first step was, what if you've heard from someone, but you haven't seen them? Next step is, what if you haven't heard from them, but there's a presumption that had something happened, you would have heard from them? Does the very fact that you didn't hear that they're dead imply that they're not dead, such that you can't make Mechayei Hametim? Right? That's the next logical question.
Basically, this is saying, can we rely on no news is good news?
Exactly. B'diuk. Right? So we've gone from seeing people to then, can you count as news? Right? Communication. And the next question is no news good news? Meaning the lack of hearing that somebody's dead, doesn't that prove that somebody's alive? Now here, you can understand why this would depend when you live, right? Because let's say you lived in 1620, right? The Rabbi Yaakov Chagiz, so you know what? It's possible someone would have died and you wouldn't have heard about it. But nowadays, even dead people have Facebook accounts, right? Someone will post on their Facebook account, right? Right? That's what they do, right? A family member will go onto their Facebook account and they'll, it's awkward, right? They'll link the dead person, right? I mean, it's creepy, right?
It gets converted. Like Facebook has like a in memory of.
In memory of, whatever. Right? It's a bit weird, but the fact that we live in a world where, in many ways, yes, the lack of hearing that someone's dead, right? Usually we don't assume that people we know are dead unless we've heard that they're dead, right? We just don't. So what's the halacha, right? Does no news imply the person's dead such that you can't make Mechayei Hametim or Shehecheyanu, right? So the Orchos Rabbeinu writes as follows: He says, so if something would have happened, good or bad, you would have heard about it. He said, because people are always traveling, we know. Now, the Orchos Rabbeinu says that even for Shehecheyanu, no news is good news, right? And therefore, you don't have to see it. Now, this is very questionable, right? Because at some level, the Chazon Ish is assuming that even Shehecheyanu at some level is about a concern that you lost the person. And therefore, he thinks even Shehecheyanu, if you would have heard from him, so you're not that happy to see him. Now, by Shehecheyanu, that's hard, because Shehecheyanu, if you haven't heard anything from somebody in months, even if you know that everything's probably fine because you haven't heard, there's still a joy if you see him. But his argument for Mechayei Hametim, right, makes a lot of sense, right? No news, right, implies the guy is still alive. The Sharat Tziyun in 10 writes, near the Hainu Shalom Mito, the Shamashu, Cholav Achak Sharo, Matzo Shubari, Mistavra Vada, the Yishlavach Shehecheyanu, the Bazeh, Simcha, Od Yoter, Mishlohaya, Mimenu, Ksav Klau. But the Sharat Tziyun, who accepts an argument like this, says, even if for Shehecheyanu you think you don't say it in a world where you can always assume you'll hear what's happening to someone, let's say you haven't heard from someone, but you did hear they were sick, right? So then if you see them, you can say Shehecheyanu, because even if the world's connected, so we don't have such joy when we haven't seen people in a while, he said, but if you hear they were sick and then you find them, right, there is a joy, you could say Shehecheyanu. Now again, vis-a-vis Shehecheyanu, that's a bit weird, because Shehecheyanu seems to be about the simcha of seeing someone panim bepanim. But these types of distinctions from Mechayei Hametim, right, later Achronim note, make a lot of sense. Now, many poskim are therefore going to reject the Mishnah Berurah's assessment vis-a-vis Shehecheyanu and say, no, Shehecheyanu you always say. But Mechayei Hametim, they accept all these types of arguments, that no news is good news, unless you have reason to believe the person's in danger. So, for example, what's a case where you would think, Bisman Hazeh, you might make Mechayei Hametim?
If they're living in a place that recently had some kind of disaster.
Right, there was an attack, right? If you have a friend who went to the army, right? You know, he went, right? He couldn't, right? During war, and we know, right? It takes a few days. There is a time period. There's a time like they don't release the names. There is a time where you had a concern that maybe, right? You know your friend is in Lebanon, is in Gaza, right? And you know that you hear a report that a soldier was killed, right? There's a possibility for at least a few hours that you know the person who was killed. And unfortunately, sometimes the answer is you do know the person, right? You really do. It's not like impossible, right? I mean, who here went to a Hesder Yeshiva, right? Saying, have you known some? I had a friend who was killed in the army. right? Someone my year in Shana Aleph, right? He was killed Shana Gimel when he was in the army, right? It's not impossible, right? It does happen. So, even if you want to say that in general there's a presumption that no news is good news, if someone was in a situation where he might actually have died and there might have been a time where you wouldn't have heard about it, so then maybe you would say Mechayei Hametim. So you look at 11, Shevet Alevi, Rav Vosner, right, Nishalti, Beinin Chayalim, Shabom in Melchama, Levarach Aleim Shehecheyanu, Kshehem B'Shedach, Sheh Begeder Sakana. So it's Ibra. Hasavik im nitkabel mehem ksav toch 30 yom. Vo acher 30 yom in levarach shechayanu aleim dem almo pligia poskim. Because of the Savik brachos lo hakel. He said, even by Shehecheyanu, the Achronim argue whether you say a bracha when you haven't heard from someone in 30 days, or you got a letter from them. Aval benida didan yesh leistapik dinehida kilmenu michtav mishlomo. But he said, wait a second. I'm willing to push this farther. Let's say you got a text message from your friend in the army yesterday. You haven't seen him in 30 days. And then you had a text message, I'm fine, I'm going into Lebanon tomorrow. Right? 2 days later, you've heard from him in the last 30 days. But there was a time period where you didn't know what was going on with him. So Rav Vosner says, even if you think that Shehecheyanu you shouldn't say, as long as you've heard from someone in 30 days, if you've heard from him in 30 days, but then he went into a situation where he might have actually gotten killed, so then for sure you should say Shehecheyanu. Right? He said, Mikol Makom Yatsa Filzman Miut Migeder Sakano, Ken Mashko Sharat Ziyun. I was given the call to Lomahani, Rakim Shalom Ito, Aval Imkadev Toch Shloshim Yom Shu Cholo, Shama Alav Kain, Rachmatzo Bari, Mistar Levarach Alav. He said, right, it's the same thing. If someone writes to you and says, it's one thing, right, you could come up with a situation, someone writes to you and says, I am dying, right, and then you see them and they're not dead, right? The fact that you heard from them in 30 days does not minimize the simcha that you now see them alive. So that's what the Mishnah Berurah said by sickness, and that's by Shehecheyanu. For Mechayei Hametim, right? Yesh Ladun, that the same thing to be true. It says v'afta hacha lo kasav Mechayei v'kasav shubari mekamakam alo isha rak shavalpinu shubakam sakana nishabari v'dainu begeder sakana korch v'adei near levarach alav Shehecheyanu achar 30 yom. So the poskim, as we saw, Mishnah Berurah equates basically across lines Shehecheyanu and Mechayei Hametim, and says they're both at some level about, right, simcha and chash misa, right? He mixes and matches in both directions, and therefore Mishnah Berurah thinks that even by Shehecheyanu, if you have no reason to believe the person is dead, right, for the 30 days you shouldn't make a bracha, right? But he thinks that if you had a reason to believe the person was unwell or was in danger, so then you would make Shehecheyanu. Okay, but that's for simcha, right? Because you could argue that Shehecheyanu is still about simcha with a little bit of chash misa, but you might say that Mechayei Hametim is primarily about chash misa, and therefore you need a higher suffix. You need to actually think the guy might be dead, not just the theoretical possibility, because the theoretical possibility is enough to generate simcha for Shehecheyanu. But is the theoretical possibility enough to generate a suffix that you would actually think that he's dead to say Mechayei Hametim? So I gave you just the last source. Rav Ovadia really sort of summarizes the consensus of poskim. So before we Rav Ovadia, let's just summarize what we have so far, right? Shehecheyanu seems to be primarily about simcha. Mechayei Hametim primarily about an actual suffix the guy died. But to some extent, you can mix and match, because even Mechayei Hametim, as the Rashba notes, is about simcha, because even if if you haven't seen someone in your life, you haven't seen him in 12 months, but you don't make the bracha, because there needs to be an element of simcha. It's someone that you care about and that you sort of lost and then you find again. And on the other hand, the Mishnah Berurah thinks that even Shehecheyanu is at some level the simcha generated by not just having not seen someone, but being concerned for their well-being. So therefore, some poskim will say Shehecheyanu, it's completely about whether you saw them or not. That was the halachos ketanos, right? The halachos ketanos said Shehecheyanu, forget the chash misa. He rejects the Mishnah. Well, this is anachronistic, but right, he says Shehecheyanu is pure simcha, and therefore he thinks that if you haven't seen someone in 30 days, no matter what, you always make the bracha. But Mechayei Hametim, where it's about being concerned the guy has died, so if you've heard from them, you don't make the bracha, right? Then we pushed it farther. That what happens if it's not just you heard from them, but let's say you haven't heard from them, but there's a presumption that you would have heard from them. So again, if you ask me, I would say pashtus is if there is an assumption that you would have heard if something bad happened, you can still say Shehecheyanu, because Shehecheyanu is about simcha. But Mechayei Hametim yesh ladun, because if there's a real concern you only say Mechayei Hametim when there's a real concern you might have lost the person. But if in an increasingly connected world you would have heard if something happened, so maybe you shouldn't make Mechayei Hametim. The Mishnah Brura, the Chazon Ish, they assume that Shehecheyanu also requires a little bit of a chash misa, and therefore they think in a connected world where you would have heard if something bad had happened, you shouldn't even say Shehecheyanu. Right? The Aruch HaShulchan, the Halachtanos say, no, that's not true. But Shehecheyanu you do say, but Mechayei Hametim not. But the Mishnah Brura, Shartzion, the Rabbeinu's Shevet HaLevi say, however, at least regarding Shehecheyanu, if there's concern that something happened to the person, so then even they would agree that for the purpose of Shehecheyanu, right, it's not enough to know that the person was alive. If the guy was in danger even for part of those 30 days, or he was sick for part of those 30 days, Shehecheyanu, which is primarily simcha, with a little bit, maybe something happened to the person, if you knew something dangerous was happening to the person, so just because you heard from them, that doesn't help. So even they would agree that under that circumstance, you would say Shehecheyanu. But Mechayei Hametim is still an open question. So Ravadia summarizes really what's going on. So he says, She'ela. Ha'im adin sheroz chaver lachar shloshim yom shel ha'rosh mevarach alav Shehecheyanu noheg bezman hazeh. Does the Brachot of Shehecheyanu apply at all? So first he brings the whole deal, and we said Shehecheyanu, but he says ulam le'inan birchos Mechayei Hametim lachar yud beis chodesh lo shamanu me'olam shemevarchim bracha zo. He said, I've never heard anybody make the bracha Mechayei Hametim. Because of Agon, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Ben Ish Chai, so the Ben Ish Chai writes, Shita Chain, Shatam Shel Nagu Bracha Zo. It might be the reason people don't make this bracha, Mishum Shein Das Abrios Nochel Levarach Alei Mechayei Hametim. Right? The Ben Ish Chai said the reason people don't make it is because it makes them uncomfortable. Right? It makes them uncomfortable. That's why. Because people don't want to say, oh, you might have been dead and now you're alive. People are just creeped out by that bracha, so they don't make it. Yeah. That's the Ben Ish Chai. Ravadia says, Ve'afshar Lahosif Tam Acher. He says, I have a better reason. He said we've already started the precedent from Lachok Tano that if you heard from them via a letter, that's enough to presume to allow you to assume they're alive. Even though you haven't seen him in 12 months. And that's what the Chida writes as well. Now he notes there are some who argue on everything we've said that if you look at the Shut Mishpatei Tzedek, they write Shafilum Kibom Menu Mechtav V'Toch Shnei Masar Chodesh Tzorich Levarich Alav Mechayei Hametim Ksher Lachar Yud B'Chodesh Mekom Makom Zavech Brachos La'akel. So if you look at the Mishpatei Tzedek, he pushes in the other direction, right? He says no, even Mechayei Hametim is about Simcha, and if it's about Simcha, then even if you've heard from him in the last 12 months, you should say the bracha, just like we said by Shehecheyanu. But he said that's not pashtus, right? Pashtus, Mechayei Hametim isn't about simcha, it's about the subject, the guy died, at least primarily. He said, Lachein, b'hiod v'chayom nischarchu, klei tikshorot mishuch lalim. Now we have excellent communication. Telefonim, right? Umavrikim asher b'chol haaretz yatsa kol muvuktzei tevel milayem. He said, right? The far ends of the earth, you can make phone calls, right? You can contact people. Milvad beidor kavur b'chol yir v'chol medina. Plus snail mail for those who use it. V'gam tayarim enosim matosim l'chol makom makom, and planes, right? You can actually go wherever you want. Right? You can find out what's going on with people, right? He's not even writing on Facebook and right and Snapchatting, WhatsApping, SMSing, whatever. What? Yeah. Twitterim belaz, whatever, right? Even with 280 characters, right? Advanced Twitterim, right? Fine. V'lo yibatzer shebetoch He said, right? If something had happened, you will hear. That's why I don't make the bracha. Because of Tam Zegam, and he said it's true that many of the Achronim think that this obviates Shehecheyanu, like the Mishnah Brura. Right, the Mishnah Brura thinks that Shehecheyanu also requires a Chash Misa, and she said that's true. He said, but that's not pashtus, right? That's by Shehecheyanu, right? The halachos ktanos already. Sorry, I skipped a line. He said, "Be'emet she'ein tamonachon." He said he's wrong, as the halachos ktanos already said. Shehecheyanu isn't about chash misa. Shehecheyanu is about simcha. And this is right. You can read any number of psychological studies that will prove this, right? We are less happy because our relationships are online, right? There is joy that comes from having real friends that you actually see once in a while. Yesh bazeh mashu, right? So he says it's wrong. Shehecheyanu is about simcha. Shehecheyanu, I don't care if you know the guy's alive. I don't care if he is one of those annoying people on Facebook who tells you every morning I'm having pancakes for breakfast and I'm having a sandwich for lunch and I'm having God knows what for snack, and you know those people, right? Now, I mean, those people, you don't have so much simcha, honestly. It's like, I know everything that's happened in the last 30 days. You've documented your entire life on Facebook. But even that person, if you like them, you'll forgive them, right? And you'll like seeing them. He says, but he says, but Mechayei Hametim, no one's concerned that you're dead unless they hear, right? Unless they have reason to believe that. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the pastors in the Shrit Mishpei Tzedek. V'amnam Reisi in the Mishnah Brura. He said, I agree. The Mishnah Brura doesn't write this. Shekasav sheish deus bachronim and miskav meno michtav v'tok shloshim yom shani anashim hodiyu bishlomo. Im yivarach Shehecheyanu. Right? He said the Achronim will think that even Shehecheyanu you don't say if you've heard from him. Ulam b'mechilas kvod taraso lo dog shapir. He said, I'm sorry to the Mishnah Brura, but he was wrong. He just misread the Achronim. He's quoting the halachos ktanos, the Berheitev, but the Berheitev never said it. The Berheitev said this was only true for Mechayei Hametim, not Shehecheyanu. It says, Yashar. If you look at the Achronim themselves, not the Mishnah Brura's citation, right? Yachzu penimo shelo nechlu galagavi berchal Mechayei Hametim lachar yud beis chodesh. They're only arguing Mechayei Hametim. Avagavi berchal Shehecheyanu afal pi shekibel menu michtavim v'shama mitov shlomo b'tok shloshim yom. Cholodei tzarich levarach Shehecheyanu. Everyone agrees to say Shehecheyanu k'sharo lachar shloshim yom. Sheino domeh Shmiya li're'iyah. She'itpalut v'hidragshuda nafshit tiyeh b'riyat chavero panim el panim b'yoter zeid v'yatzaros. People are more excited when they see each other in person. B'sikum. And therefore he says, La lacha, mishalo raz chaver b'mechshem shloshim yom. If you haven't seen your friend in 30 days, v'u chaver shechavolav mod, and you really like him, v'u adin laviv a rabbo, your parent, or your teacher, or lecha mikrov, or a relative, b'no, or achiv, v'chadome, or achan mikrovosav, gon ishto, or imo, or vito, or achoso, kol shemech v'razim, anyone you're happy to see. Allah levarach bircha shechenu b'shem u'malchus, yushay shechayanu, afo b'shea itam b'kesher telefoni. Even if you've been talking to them, b'kesher shel mechtavim, b'doch shloshim yom, or you wrote to them. U'mishalo raz chaveru achavolav me'od. V'samech b'riyas, when you haven't seen someone, v'mesner shnei masar chodesh, v'lohaya imo kesher b'mechtavo b'telefon, o mifrak b'chadome, and you haven't seen him in 12 months, and you haven't been in contact, v'gam lo sham shemechem sheshalom, you haven't heard from anybody anything about him, tzarich levarach alav v'shem, u'malchus barachat Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Mechayei Hametim. He thinks you should say Mechayei Hametim. But if you've been in contact, lo yivarach el bircha Shehecheyanu v'shem u'malchus, only Shehecheyanu. But then he says, "V'yesh le'stabik b'den rosh chaver lachar shloshim yom b'televizia." So I have a suffix. What if you haven't seen someone? You've seen him on television or Skype, right? Is there a difference between Skype, right, and getting a letter or getting regards from somebody? I'm not sure. B'shidur chai, if it was live, im yivarach alav Shehecheyanu, right? If you saw him on TV, would you make a bracha? Reba should b'tzal hachacham, should bear Moshe, Sharon melch b'taviz lo yivarach, shalom b'chod l'vasar adam, v'chen gad b'shidur shun min chaz Yitzchak. Said some think you would say for seeing them on TV. He thinks I don't think so. The Yam HaGadol actually thinks if you hear your friend on the phone for the first time in 30 days, you also make a Shehecheyanu. It's only about joy. So for sure, if you saw him live on TV, but I don't think it's true. Now here, I think this sugya, right? It's a relatively straightforward sugya, but what you see is the poskim in many ways are trying to grapple with the realities of modern life. So just to sort of highlight what they're doing. Right, Shehecheyanu, which seems to be okay. Let's assume, if you assume like the halachas that Shehecheyanu is primarily about joy, right? So then, some poskim say, well, if you've heard from him at all in the last 30 days, right, then joy is simply being in contact with somebody. But most of the poskim say that's not true, right? As Zach said, I like seeing my friends in person, right? I know you didn't say it, Josh, but okay, you have poskim who back you up also. Some poskim say, look, joy, right? And you can superimpose this discussion psak onto modern psychological discussions, right? Is that many poskim, right? Many poskim saying, no, there is a difference in simcha between people you see in person and people that you emailed or Snapchatted or whatever, right? And then you look at Rav Ovadia, right? Rav Ovadia says, the Yam HaGadol thinks that, right, there's two related questions here. One is, if I've been in contact with them, am I still happy when I see them? Right? That's question one. Question two is, if I don't see them in person, but I do see them by, he says live television, but Skype would be easier, right? Skype, does that generate the same simcha? So the Yam Gadol says, Rav Toledano says, yes, seeing someone you haven't seen in a while on Skype or even talking to them on the phone generates enough simcha. What does Rav Ovadia say? No, even seeing someone on Skype or hearing them on the phone, that's better than a letter, but it's still not the same as seeing someone in person, so he thinks you do make the bracha. The Mishnah Brura thinks that Shehecheyanu requires a chash the person would be dead. So therefore he says, if you've heard from them, so vade, they're alive. What about negative proof? You haven't heard they're dead. So then, the Orchos Rabbeinu, the Chazon Ish says, well, if you haven't heard somebody's dead, so then, presumably they're not dead. You can't even make Shehecheyanu. Now that is tweaked by Rav Vosner, who says that's only true if, right, because it's primarily about simcha and only, according to some achronim, need the possibility of death to increase the simcha, right? He says, well, that's only if you don't have reason to believe the person's in danger. But if the person's in danger, even if you've heard from them, it doesn't obviate the simcha because now you've seen them and now you know that they're safe. Right? So a soldier, someone who's been sick. But then, as Rav Ovadia notes, most poskim, classic achronim, felt that no, there's a clean split between Shehecheyanu and Mechayei Hametim. Shehecheyanu is about simcha. And therefore Shehecheyanu, unless you see the person in person, or maybe, according to the Yam Gadol, you see them on Skype, right? You make Shehecheyanu when you see somebody in person. But Mechayei Hametim, so, the Shud Mishpatei Shmuel, I think he called it, right? Mishpatei Tzedek, of Rav Shmuel Garmazian, or whatever. I don't know if it's that family. I don't know if they're related. I have no idea. Right? Says, no, even Mechayei Hametim is about simcha, and therefore he says, yeah, whatever you're going to say by Shehecheyanu vis-a-vis simcha, you'll say Mechayei Hametim by simcha. But most achronim think not that way. Mechayei Hametim, at least, is about a chash that someone is dead. And therefore, even though Shehecheyanu, you might think, yeah, there's still something nice about seeing your friends, you can't, with honesty, say that the way Rav Ovadia says, if I've heard from him directly in the year, or even indirectly, so for sure, I can't say Mechayei Hametim. Now, Rav Ovadia thinks that if you haven't heard from him at all, right, Mamish fell off the face of the earth, there at some level there's a suffix he's dead, you can say Mechayei Hametim. But many others would contend, like the Chazon Ish did by Shehecheyanu, that no, at least by Mechayei Hametim, which is about can you lose somebody in 2017? The answer is no. And if you haven't heard from somebody, but you haven't heard anything bad either, so you shouldn't be able to say Mechayei Hametim. The one thing I'd wonder is, according to Reb Vosner, right, and according to Shehecheyanu, I would wonder what happens if, right, you have a case of a friend who went to the army, right, and he's been for a few months up in God knows where, in Lebanon, Gaza, whatever, and you haven't seen him in 12 months, according to Brachot of Shehecheyanu, according to Shehecheyanu, according to the Shevet HaLevi, that would be the one case where there was at least a time period in which there was a chashash, he was dead. So then, Yesh Ladun, that even the Brachot of Shehecheyanu, right, applied to Mechayei Hametim would say you do say it. But you see how this discussion in Psak is really a superimposed discussion on one, what is the effect of communication technology on our emotional relationships with our friends, and two, what is the effect of communication technology on the way we relate to lack of communication? Does that tell us anything about the way whether somebody's alive or not? And the poskim are really, and this is, it's really a psychological / sociological discussion, but happening through halachic language, because in the end of the day, Baruch, Mechayei Hametim, and Shehecheyanu are really just halachic construct that are superimposed on these two, right, on the psychological, sociological structures, which is why I've sort of found this sugya fascinating. Lahalacha, I think, again, the Aruch HaShulchan would tell you Shehecheyanu, you would say, right, Mechayei Hametim, you would not. I can't tell you to do that because the Mishnah Berurah says not to, though it does seem to be, admittedly, a mistake, a misapplication of those Achronim. I'm not going to paskin for you, but I think it's an interesting thing to think about how our change in psychological and sociological realities affect not just our emotional lives, but our halachic lives, and how those two are related. Shkoyech.